We have your weekend Apple news. Welcome back to the channel. I'm finally back. Went to Germany. We'll get into that in a second. You know what we do in the weekends. We go through the Apple news. I'm going to go through about 20 to 25 different Apple-related news stories, some Apple tech sales, and throw them in there as well. Just got back from Oktoberfest, the real thing. I'm going to put some pictures up here. Met some cool Germans. Crazy times. One of the best times of my life. If you've never gone, you got to go. Bucket list thing. Definitely do it. Cheers, everyone. Happy Oktoberfest. Anyways, sit back and relax, and we're going to get into right now the Apple news. Okay, so for story number one, let's talk about some of the new product launches coming out soon. Now, we know there's a new Apple event coming up. We just don't know when it is. It hasn't been officially announced yet. But take a look over here, Mac Rumors. The Apple event this October. Here's the latest on what to expect. So we think it's coming in October, but what's exactly going to come? That's what we're going to talk about in this video, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyways, you can see the little symbol here. We're going to scroll down here. So you can see the history, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. They've all been in October. Lately, they've been late October, especially over here. This was October 28th to the 30th. But you can see how this in 2024, it's going to be late October, right? So we're expecting anywhere from October 24th to October 30th. That's kind of my guess right now for this next event. So what might be coming too? This is going to be, we're going to get into this. This is going to ruffle some feathers for sure. The iPad Pros are going to be coming for sure. We know that. Vision Pro, we don't know 100%, but we think the next version with a new chip on it. But then after that, we're going to talk about that. There might be an issue. Apple TV, that's going to be coming, we think for sure. HomePod Mini, and then the AirTag. You might be noticing it says, what about the Macs? And that's what we're going to get into right here. We're going to talk about the Macs and what we actually found. It's kind of shocking. Some people are going to be, I think most will be unhappy here. A couple will be happy though. So let's keep moving. That's kind of the basic timeline of the event. Oh yeah, and cheers everyone. I forgot to do that because I did enough of that in Germany. I'll show you some pictures there. I'm kind of all cheered out, all right? Anyways, you get the idea. It was a great time. So here we go with story number two. This is going to be about now, what about the MacBook Pros? Let's take a look. Mac Rumors. It says, Apple rumored to launch MacBook Pro with M5 chip before M5 Pro and M5 Max models. So this is kind of what we're thinking. Apple's planning to release a base MacBook Pro with the standard M5 chip before higher-end models of the M5 Pro and M5 Max chips, all right? So if you take a look at the picture here, the report said that the MacBook Pro with the M5 chip is nearing release. That's probably coming at the end of October. But just think about this. So only the MacBook Pro, the base level one, with just the M5 chip is going to be shipping. And now there's a bunch of identifiers. I'm not going to get into it here, but basically there's some identifiers that came out and only showed one Mac that's going to be coming out in this October release so far. This is all rumors, of course, but just one Mac. And that Mac's going to be the MacBook Pro with the M5 chip. That means that the M5 Pro, I guess the M5 Pro chip and the M5 Max chips are going to be coming out not in October, but they think in basically early 2026. That's going to make a lot of people unhappy waiting for those. But if you're looking for the base level M5 MacBook Pro, it's going to be coming out, we think, in this October release based on all the numbers. That's going to be big, but still, it's kind of a weird cycle here. This is what we think is coming with the MacBook Pros. All right, lately you've seen a lot of deals on the M4 MacBook Airs, all right? And obviously they've been great at $799 for the base level. But is this also coming out? Do we think the MacBook Airs are going to ship in 2025? You might not be happy, but according to this, no. Let's take a look. Mac Rumors. The M5 MacBook Air release date, features, and performance predictions, all right? So here's the M5 MacBook Air now. So if you kind of scroll down here without going through all too much of this stuff, it says release timing and price. It says, indeed, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reports that Apple plans to roll out the M5 versions of the MacBook Air in the first quarter of 2026. He suggests that the pricing will stay the same at $999. Obviously, it goes on sale, so it's going to probably be $999 base, but go on sale instantly just to keep up. But you can see, likely March of 2026 window. March, that's a couple months into 2026. So if you're waiting for, well, we'll get into that in a second. Hold on one second before we get into that, but take a look. So it's going to have the processor is going to be upgraded to the 3nm chip. So we're going to go through the speeds of that in a second, but that's obviously going to be a big change with the new M5 chip. It's going to be a very fast computer. It says display and other possible changes. There's not going to be really any of them in here. it says, Apple tends to stick with the same generation over a lot of different times here. So we don't think anything's going to be really changing. It says, looking ahead in 2027, the Apple plans to release a MacBook Air with an improved LCD display in 2027. So that'll be a new display in 2027. But this next one with the M5 processor, maybe March 2026. So if you're waiting for that. Now, this begs the question, if you're waiting for something right now, I don't know. These are rumors, all right? So don't I'm just looking at what they're telling us. But if you're waiting, if you want to think you were going to buy the M4 MacBook Air or the M5 MacBook Air, is it worth waiting for the M5? Well, let's talk about that because the M5 is going to be really fast, the M5 MacBook Air. So let's jump into that right now and see just how fast it is to help you make a decision. Okay, so here we go. Take a look here. It says what the M5 iPad Pro leak says about the M5 MacBook Air. So we're going to decipher how fast this M5 MacBook Air is going to be based off this leak here. So we got a leak on the M5 iPad Pro. And we're going to scroll down here, and I'll zoom in into this if you can see it. But basically what this is saying is the new numbers are going to be over here, which is crazy. I think these are the old numbers on the M4 chips. Here's the M5 chip over here, 4133 on the single core. This is Geekbench 6, 15,437 right there. These are going to be the leaks on the iPad Pro, the M5 iPad Pro. That's going to probably be coming out in October, all right? Again, iPad versus MacBook Air. But what does this tell us about the MacBook Air? Well, the MacBook Air is usually slightly faster. I think they say 3 to 4% faster than the iPads. And so now that we have these numbers, we can kind of go down and start figuring out how fast this is actually going to be. And it's actually going to be fast enough where it's going to probably shock you, where you may want to wait and not buy the M4 and wait for the M5, even though it's a few months away. How fast? Let's take a look over here. Again, these are just extrapolated out. But here we go, Geekbench single core benchmarks. And you can take a look in here. Here's the M4 MacBook Air. This is the old one here. The single core is going to be 3777. Here's the M5 MacBook Air. Take a look, same 10-core chip. Oops, the thing just jumped on me. Same 10-core chip there, sorry about that. It says right here, 4,230. So you can see the difference here, 3,777 up to 4,230. That's a massive difference there. And you can see that's basically based off of the iPad Pros, plus they're adding a little bit extra because the MacBook Air can cool it better. It's a little bit bigger chassis. You get a little bit better performance out of it. So overall, that's a pretty big difference on single core. But let's go down here to, actually, let me scroll up here. Let's go to the multi-core. This is even more surprising. So the M4 MacBook Air is here, 14,772. Look at this, the M5 MacBook Air up to 16,000, almost 17,000 roughly, 16,988. That's a massive jump too. Look at this in the list here. And you can see, the major differences here. So what this tells you, I don't know. I mean, should you wait? Should you not wait? It's a big jump. I mean, will everyone notice this? Most people won't if you're just doing basic stuff for work. But if you maybe want to do video editing or if you want to do other high performance stuff, I mean, the single core is going to make a little bit of a difference. And then the multi-core, you can see, and there's a pretty big jump. So you have to just do your own research on this. I'm just giving you the information that we have, but it's still pretty eye-popping. Okay, we're going to keep moving here. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I went to Vienna also. Vienna is a really cool town. I'll put up a couple pictures, or at least one or two here, so you can take a look at that. My trip was great. That's why I'm all worn out right now, and sorry. I actually did a lot of the videos before I left, so I was so worn out, and then I did one when I got back. I'm still trying to get through the time changes, all right? So over here, this is Apple Insider, and we just talked about this. So the M5 MacBook Air, we think is early 2026, all right? The M5, and we just talked about this one too, the M5 Pro and M5 Max MacBook Pros, not the base level, but the other ones, still early 2026, so not in October. We're going to wait for those. But what about the Mac Minis? Unfortunately, it says right here, Mac Mini and Mac Studio, again, rumored summer 2026. Now that surprises me, summer 2026. That could mean June, July. I don't know what they're talking about there. So if you're looking at an M4 MacBook, Mac Mini, I'm sorry, Mac Mini, and the Mac Studio here. I probably said the wrong thing before. Long story short, that's when you're going to be waiting. So we don't know. I mean, it could ship earlier, but based on what they say, these identifiers and all these other information they're getting, they think it's the summer if you're looking for a new Mac Mini or a Mac Studio. And that's kind of crazy, right? And then if you scroll down, I think somewhere in here there was the iMacs. Actually, I don't see it in here. But the iMacs were the same thing. I think the iMacs were around between March and the summer of next year. It's not going to be shipping this year. That's what they're thinking at least. So hopefully that gives you some information on what's coming. Don't shoot the messenger, obviously, and that's all we know right now. Okay, so let's talk about some new products that are going to be shipping next year that we haven't talked about, that are not expected to ship at all this year, right? Take a look over here, 9 to 5 Mac. Here are 5 exciting Apple product launches to look forward to next year. And this is the big one right here. We're going to look right into here right away. The new Studio Display is one of the most, it's basically the most minor mention on this list, but given Apple's track record, it's a bigger deal than most would think. I think it's one of the biggest things, obviously, and you can see it. So let's kind of scroll down here. You can see a picture of it in here. So what do we think about this? That's the first thing. So I'm going to go over to this next page over here. This is Apple Insider, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. Let me see if I can find the right spot here. Okay, so it says screens here. So it says next to the two MacBook variants will also be a pair of Mac monitors. You can see here a pair, codenamed J427 and J527. These are lumped that the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro is entering mass production soon. So that's probably going to be the same time as we're mentioning the other two MacBook Pros and the MacBook Air there. And hopefully we're going to get two of them, all right? Now think about this for a second. We haven't had one for like the last 4 years, and they're thinking about two of them. Obviously, it might be the more expensive model and the cheaper model. But over here, this is kind of interesting. So it says, one, the J427 is anticipated to be the next generation Studio Display, although it's not exactly clear what will change. Some rumors have pointed to a change in the LED backlighting and to mini LED, short of a full OLED change, all right? The current 5K resolution could potentially increase to 6 or 7K. I don't think 7K, maybe 6K, while the screen size could be altered from 27 to a possible 32. My guess is 6K at 32 inches. I could be wrong, but it looks like it's going that way. I'll show you a couple in a second why. ProMotion and Thunderbolt 5 support have also been mentioned. However, the rumor mill hasn't been clear about Apple's monitor rumors. It's possible that some of the claims relate to the second model, which is the J527, and that's the larger size counterpart, obviously the one that's way more expensive that most people do not buy. All right, so why do I think it's possible that the new Studio Display is going to go to 6K at 32 inch? Not only is everyone asking for that, and we have small monitors now, but all of the competition's coming out with ones right now at that kind of resolution and at that size. The problem is the Studio Display going to jump up to $2,000? According to this, it probably will, and that's the problem. So let's take a look over here. I want a cheaper one. It might go up. So over here, LG now, we barely talked about this one. They're coming out with one really soon here. LG's ultra-fine 6K Thunderbolt 5 monitor will set you back $1,999. This looks just like a Studio Display, and let's just kind of go down here. It says ultra-fine 6K monitor with Thunderbolt 5 is finally available to pre-order. You can pre-order this right now, giving consumers a big 6K alternative to the Pro Display XDR. So according to, obviously that's $5,000 from Apple. This is $2,000. And the Studio Display is about $1,599. So this is coming out now, and you can see that it's actually ready for pre-order. So if you're worried about this, the number is it's 32U990A. That's what you're looking for. Just look for the LG on that, and you can go ahead and pre-order that. So kind of interesting, right? But everything's going that direction. So I think Apple's going to have to do something. I think they can't just leave it at 5K. At 27 inches, but Apple, right? They don't always do what we want. They do what they want, so you just never know. Okay, let's switch gears here to iPads really quick. And over here, Mac rumors, it says the next iPad Pro to have two key features, but one rumor is still uncertain. What is this? All right, so we know they're coming out, like again, October, end of October. We think these are coming out for sure. So over here, let's take a look. The next iPad Pro models are rumored to have two key upgrades, including the M5 chip, obviously is one of them, but also an increased minimum of 12 gigabytes of RAM. So the big one's going to be, we think even the base level is going to have 12 gigabytes of RAM versus 8 in the base levels that were before, the M4 versions. So the RAM is going to be the big increase here. But it's also going to be something else. They had mentioned it's going to be basically a dual camera also on these systems. And there's some people thinking it could be, some people thinking it's not going to be. And this is why right over here. It says it was previously rumored that the next iPad Pro models would have two front cameras, allowing you to take easy photos, and video calls in both portrait and landscape orientations. However, there's no evidence of a second front camera in the unboxing videos of some of these weird leak videos, with only the ambient light sensor visible in the top bezel in one of the videos. So someone did like an unboxing, they supposedly have it, and they didn't see the second camera. But Bloomberg's Mark Gurman said, he made a comment, "I can say with certainty that the M5 iPad Pros with Apple have a second lens. There's a history of Apple testing features in an advanced stage before pulling them, such as certain storage capacities or features like a dock connector on the original iPad. But this would be strange last-minute cut. We shall see. Apple will unlikely reveal this within the month." So he's saying he thinks without certainty, he's seen it in Apple. Who knows where his sources come from? This other people that are unboxing are saying it's not on there. We're still up in the ground on that, but the 12 gigabytes of RAM, we're pretty sure about. Okay, this next story is about iPhones. I thought this was interesting because everyone, people like me, they're all buying the iPhone Air, right? It's so cool. Everyone's talking about it. But do people really want it? Right over here. It says iPhone 17 Pro demand surges far past iPhone 16 Pro. This is not what I'm going to talk about, but obviously the iPhone 17 Pro is doing really, really well. In fact, they went on to ask people, they do a survey here, and they went on to ask people, what are they going to buy? What do they want to buy as far as the new iPhone 17s? And you can see here, as far as what consumers want to buy, the range, the iPhone 17 Pro Max was the most popular at 33% of the share, followed by the iPhone 17 Pro at 22%, followed by the standard iPhone 17, which is 20%. So you can see the difference here, but there's not really a mention of the Air. All right, so he goes on to say that there is no mention of the iPhone Air, or even the word Air at all in the full report. It was unclear if the Air was factored into the results of the survey. Remember, we just talked about the other phones, but not the Air. Apple Insider asked for clarification and was told that the iPhone Air actually was part of the survey. However, it didn't get enough share to count as one of the top 5 preferred models among consumers, so it was left out of the report. It says, as an example for the question, which iPhones are you looking for, the iPhone Air got a 2% share overall, with the US-China specific response being 2% also for that model. So they went ahead and asked all these people, and the Air only got 2% of people saying they're going to buy it. Think about that for a second, versus 20-something% for the Max and 20% for the Pro, 20% for, so, and then obviously there's probably the cheaper version, the iPhone 17 or 16e or whatever they call it. So all that stuff, but this is 2% and everyone's talking about it. So long story short, I know Apple had to make that because of the foldable phone to get good information on that, but is it going to be a success? Time will tell. Okay, cheers everyone again. We have a couple sales coming up here with some Apple stuff. We always like to throw in a couple sales there, so tell me what you think over here. This is going to be from Micro Center, Apple Mac Mini, all right, desktop computer, the M4 Pro chip. So this is the Pro, not just the M4, but the Pro, 24 gigs, but 1 terabyte SSD. That's a big upgrade, $1,295.99. That means basically you're getting, if you buy this is usually $12 or $1,300 or maybe $13.99. I forget exactly the base price. But you're getting it for cheaper with a 1 terabyte drive than you would be getting it with basically the base level drive. So I think that's a good deal there. I mean, obviously it's a weird configuration. You don't usually see it with 1 terabyte. So I'm going to count that as a good deal based off of that. Right, the next one over here, you tell me if this is a good one or not. Hold on one second. Now this one's refurbished. The other one wasn't. But Micro Center has great refurbished products. Go out and check them out. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I don't even get a kickback from them. I just like talking about them. But this is the Apple MacBook Pro 16-inch, 16.2. But it's got the M3 Pro chip. So it's an M3 Pro chip, 16-inch. All right, and it's not the M4, but the M3 Pro. 18 gigs here, 512 gigabyte SSD for $13.99. But think about that for a second. So it's the Pro chip. 16-inch, $13.99. It is refurbished, though. I think that's a good cost, though, overall. What do you guys think on that one? Would you buy it? Would you, the M5s are coming out in the future, so it's kind of one of those things, but we're not going to maybe get the Pro one until the, early next year. So we'll have to see how that actually hashes out. What else do I have here? All right, this next product's not really an Apple product, but you can use it for your Apple devices and everything else. I recommend this for one reason over here. It's kind of a cool feature. I'll show you. So this is the Blue Yeti Solar Generator Elite. So if you're thinking about Elite 30, I guess, version 2. But if you're thinking about just buying one of these, just to kind of test them out, first of all, it's got the Life P04 battery, which is safer than lithium-ion. That's actually really good. It's also $199. It's 33% off right now, and it's a 288 watt-hour battery. So it's going to help you charge everything. It's got plugs in here. It's got USB-C, USB-A. Let me see if I can click on this. You can see everything in here. It's got all these different features, but the plugs are key, and then also the device here, and you can, car lighters and everything else. So it's just a good starter one. But the reason I like this is, let me just show you why, is let me actually see if I can find right over here. Let me click on this picture. This one's actually really cool because if you have, let's say you have an iMac or something, you can plug your iMac right into this device here and then plug this into the wall. And this has got a 10 millisecond switch over time, so you can actually go ahead and use this as kind of a cutover for a power outage. If you're doing something important on your computer, this will hold the power if the power goes out. It actually acts as a device just like that as well. You can see here in this picture. So overall, I think for $199, it's a great device to have just laying around. And not only can you get, if there's a power outage, you can charge your stuff. You can't put your fridge on this, but it's not enough power. But you can do your computer like iMacs and stuff and maybe Mac Minis. It would actually be good for kind of a power source there. I think overall that's a good product. And then finally, another Apple product here. Pretty good price. Obviously, the new ones are coming out. We just don't know about the Airs, though. I think they're coming out later. So here's the Apple iPad Air 11-inch with the M3 chip. Faster than you're ever going to need on an iPad, trust me. 128 gigs. It's what, 25% off, $449 right now. Usually almost $600, $599. So that's a good deal there for the blue version. Good price. I say, like I said, if you're looking for the Air, I don't think those are coming out for a while, so you might as well look at this and just save the money and get it right now, maybe for Christmas, and just be done with it. Okay, this next story, how does it kind of relate to Apple and maybe even Android? Well, you know Netflix. Netflix has been faltering a little bit. They've been losing a lot of subscribers for various reasons, and I actually got rid of them myself. But anyways, you know the idea. Over here, though, 9to5 Mac, it says Netflix is launching party games for the living room and with iPhone integration. So here we go, trying to kind of get back into the game here. They're trying to do a couple things to get things going here. Netflix launched in the world of gaming in 2021 with a focus on mobile titles, but now the streamer has ready to push harder in the living room. The company has announced 5 party games coming to Netflix soon, just in time for the holidays, all right? And it says they'll be available with a Netflix subscription at no extra cost. So it's not going to cost anything extra. So you can see in here, you can use, it says, well, let me actually just read it to you. It says, and thanks to the iPhone and Android integration, it'll be easy for everyone in the room to participate. So it says you get Lego Party, Boggle, remember Boggle, Pictionary, Tetris, and then Party Crashers, Fool Your Friend. These are kind of party games. But the cool part about it, long story short, is you can now use your iPhone or your Android phone and have a room of people playing on Netflix, and they can put in answers and stuff. It's somehow going to relate, I guess, with Bluetooth or something. I don't know how it does it. Long story short, though, it's kind of a cool thing, right, for the holidays and stuff. Free. So they're trying to get more into this, give you some more free perks. These are really inexpensive perks. Anyways, I'm still canceling. What about you? Okay, a while back we talked about Jony Ive's kind of new device he was coming out with OpenAI, and it's been delayed. And it's like there's a lot of unknown questions about this. Maybe they ran into some hurdles like I thought they would. 9to5 Mac. Jony Ive's AI hardware reportedly delayed. 15 to 20 compelling ideas still. And they show this kind of device, but we don't know what the device is. It's a secretive AI hardware device, they say down here. We just don't know what it is. But what are these, things that they're running into? He said that there's 3 fundamental problems that they're running into right over here. Okay, so it seems like there's more than 3 issues, but it says right here, people familiar with their plan said OpenAI and Ive have yet to solve the critical problems that could basically delay the device's release here. So without getting too much into it, it says one rather basic problem is how to give the device the computing power it'll need to be useful, a source close to Ive says. So OpenAI is struggling to get enough power compute for ChatGPT in this little device that they actually wanted to do. That's the number one problem they said so far, is getting the computing power, right? So it says it doesn't sound like they have any product yet either, this person's commenting on. They don't know what the form factor is. They don't know what the hardware will run on. So this is a big problem. I guess that's combined with the first issue. And those are all major problems, right? I mean, I would guess that's a huge problem if you don't even have the device dimensions yet. I mean, that's going to be a far way off. The next thing over here is privacy is another big challenge. Unlike smart speakers, which are triggered by a wake word or something like that, obviously, who knows, they're always listening. I think that. The report says that this device is always on. That would mean both cameras and microphones that are always active, which obviously poses a huge security issue. So it says that they're developing a lot more security for this device. That's delaying it as well. And then it says down here, one issue is ensuring the device only chimes in when useful, preventing it from talking too much or not knowing when to finish the conversation. An ongoing issue with ChatGPT is basically the concept that you should have a friend who's a computer who isn't a weird AI girlfriend, says one source. So basically they're saying they want it to just give you the information you need, but no more. They don't want it to be annoying, and it's really difficult because ChatGPT keeps spitting out information, and they're trying to solve that. So those are the 3 key issues. They don't really have a product yet. We'll see. These are all kind of, again, rumors and stuff like that, but overall, I think it's going to be a while. Okay, this next story might be a little bit surprising if you're actually going to be, you're thinking you're going to be buying these cheaper Vision Pro, Vision Pro coming out in the next couple of years, like they call it the Vision Pro Air that we kept talking about. Well, apparently Apple's putting kind of the brakes on it right over here. Vision Pro, this is from Mac Rumors, Vision Pro future uncertain as headset development is seemingly paused. Recent reports suggest that there is now no redesigned Apple Vision headset in active development, with the company focusing on the smart glasses. Kind of what we thought, all right? So Apple sees the writing on the wall. These haven't been that successful. Making them slightly smaller is an issue. The $3,000, it says down here, with a $3,400 price, it's almost impossible to sell them. Then you get the price down to like $600 or $700. So they're in an issue here. So they're probably going to come out with the next version, the M5 version of this or the M4 version of this, but then they're going to stop after that. I think that's already been created. Then they're going to go ahead and get all that technology and try to make the smart glasses competing with Meta. So we think this is going to be kind of a dead thing in the water, and it's going to be advancing towards the smart glasses. I'm not 100% there. There could be versions of this made for more, corporate environments like not teachers, but like, medical people and stuff, scientists. But still, overall, it's not good news for it, at least, according to this. So we'll see how it hashes out. Anyways, that's what I got. Okay. So if you're kind of like me and you lived as long as I have and you have the era of the BlackBerries with the kind of the physical buttons on your phone, a new company is now offering that in a style for your brand new iPhone 17 Pros. Take a look over here. So it says adding BlackBerry style keys to your iPhone just got a little more affordable, all right? So I'll kind of zoom in. You can see the picture here. It looks like this. See it in here? It says, like Click's keyboard, the Meta key case connects via USB-C and adds Query keyboard to the bottom of the iPhone, but it's priced at only about $60, half of the cost of the Click's keyboard case. So before it was around $139, $129. Now it's only $59 with this new company doing it. And you can see it there. Let me actually go in here and just show you a better picture. So it starts at $59 up to $69. I believe that's between the Pro and the Pro Max. And it looks just like this. It attaches to your phone. See it there? And it's got physical keys. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone. Let me see if there's any other pictures in here. So like your phone kind of attaches. See that right into this USB-C here? And then you can go ahead and put the case around it. It acts as a case, and you can type really easily in there. Comes with all this stuff. But it does come in that cool orange color. It comes in some other colors in here as well, the whites and everything. So I think it's kind of an interesting product, right? Especially if you're used to it. I don't know if obviously it makes your phone, that long, right? So if you don't have long pockets, it may not be for you as well. But oh yeah, over here, take a look. There's a whole bunch of colors. I just noticed this. All these different colors over here. See it? So, and it's got the 16 and the 16, or the 16 Pro Max, actually 16 Pro Max, and the 17 Pro Max here. So you can get those if you actually have an older phone too. All right, so there you go. Anyways, I thought it was just kind of cool to mention. Just one of those products that is innovative, and even if not everyone uses it, it's a fun product. Okay, so let me just kind of ask everyone a question. Think about this for a second. What is probably the worst product you can buy from Apple right now? The most expensive product that does the least amount of upgrades for you? Or it's, I'm not calling you stupid if you buy it. I'm not going to do that because I always get hate for this. But in my standpoint, you'd be crazy to buy this thing. I mean, what is the product that you can think of that's actually in this category? Let's think what it is right over here. This is my guess, at least. Mac Rumors. Is it worth buying the titanium Apple Watch? So we're talking about just the titanium standard watch. The Apple Watch Series 10 and Series 11 are available in both aluminum and titanium case options. So which should you choose, all right? Now hear me out for a second. This is the crazy thing. I didn't really realize this, and you can kind of see the finishes in here. It says, all right, the aluminum Apple Watch starts at $399. So that's $399 for the aluminum Apple Watch Series 11. And that's a good buy, good watch, everything like that. But over here, on the other hand, the titanium Apple Watch starts at $699. Look at the difference here, $300, all right? And let me actually get to the kind of the meat of the thing down here. It says the titanium model is more versatile and more durable, but can basically $300 more. Internally, the titanium and aluminum versions of the Apple Watch Series 10 and 11 are exactly the same. They share the same chips, sensors, displays, and battery life. Every health and fitness feature is across the board is the same. So you're spending $300, basically almost double the watch, to go from the steel one or whatever, aluminum, to titanium. Is it worth? So in my standpoint, if anyone ever asks you, like, what is the dumbest product you could buy from Apple? And I'm sorry if you did it. I understand there's people that have the money that want to do it. You're going to attack me, I know it, but I'm holding to it. Don't buy the titanium one. Okay, we got another little quick sale here. I thought this was kind of cool. This is a company that sells, they're a kind of an Apple premium partner. Take a look over here. Xpericon. It's basically a premium partner. I believe this is new. From everything I can tell here, do your own research though. I'll probably have a link to this in here. But this is if you have more money than you know what to do with, or you want to do a lot of video editing. It's a crazy thing that you would buy, but still pretty interesting. It's the Mac Mini with the M4 Pro with the gigabit Ethernet, all right? So what do we have here? So we have, it's a Mac Mini, the M4 Mac Mini with the Pro chip, obviously. We also get 64 gigs of RAM maxed out and 8 terabytes of storage, all right? This is usually $4,399. Right now it's $3,499, so $1,000 off right now. But I think if you go down here, if you go through Apple Insider or something, I mean, there says right down here, Apple Insider price, $3,254, so it's like $1,200 off or $1,250 off or whatever. So it's actually even more off. So if you need the top of the line, this is the, you can brag to all your friends that you have the best M4, Mac Mini you can buy, money can buy. This is the one you can get a lot cheaper now, up to $1,200 off. So I thought that was a good deal as well overall, right? All right. And moving on, this next story is kind of cool. It's interesting because remember, I don't know if you remember, but there was like this, we all know about the blue screen of death on Windows computers, right? We always talked about that back in the day. You don't want to get the blue screen of death, or the whatever they call it back in the day, where all of a sudden you get that blue screen on a Windows PC and then your whole computer would freak out. Apple loves, they don't have that, right? They always talked about that back in the day. Well, Apple usually doesn't mock people directly, but they did in this video, which is really surprising, which kind of surprised me, right? So take a look over here. It's interesting. Mac rumors. Apple mocks Windows PC with humorous new blue screen of death ad. And it's right on their website right over here. And I'll have a link to it if you want to watch it. Okay, so in here you can take a look. This video now is like, what is it? It's like 8 or 9 minutes long. But they go, look at this. They go in and they show like a lot of the actual people running around because of the blue screen of death on the Windows PCs. And then they go on and, the whole thing just goes on to show you why you want a Mac versus a Windows PC. But I just thought it was interesting. It's just it's an 8-minute video that showcases, why you'd want that. And it totally mocks Windows PCs. And I just think it's crazy. Like Apple puts this on their website. They don't usually directly go like this, the people. So I thought it was kind of a funny ad if you want to watch it. I mean, why did it come out now? That thing happened. Remember, like last year, there was an issue also with like something happening to only Windows PCs. I think it was something with CrowdStrike or something. It affected all of the Windows PCs, and they kind of throw that in here as well. So I just thought it was interesting that Apple did it for all it's worth, because it's like, they're kind of like waiting for some feedback back. I'm sure they're going to get a response, and we'll have to see what it is. Okay, so if you want to make a lot of money and you're really, really smart and you can help Apple, they've actually increased their bounties for catching malicious stuff, right? Right over here. Apple Insider. Apple is about to give more generous payouts from its bug bounty program. And you can see the little lock here with Apple. So Apple's increasing the bounty it pays to security experts who successfully bypass iOS protections, with the top single payment now increased to $2 million. The bug program has routinely been criticized and even called crippled based on Apple's intentionally, it's basically their approach to it. While the payouts are not the worst in the industry, the company has had a reputation for basically being, they don't sign the checks. They don't give you the money in the end of the day. They say they're all changing this. As of November 2025, it's doubling its top single award to $2 million. And through a bonus system, it could grow to $5 million for catching this. So think about it. If you're really smart with technology, you keep hammering the operating system and you can find a way to get in there and really screw it up, they're going to give you maybe up to $5 million. It could be worth it just to take a couple years and do it, make your money, and then retire at the age of 23 if you're smart, right? So I thought that was interesting as well. Kind of a cool article. I mean, again, what are you going to do, right? I mean, I'm not doing that, I can tell you right now. I think I had too many Oktoberfests to even try that. So, all right, the next thing we have here is going to be for Mac Rumors. This is kind of Apple's way of saying, whatever happened, let's kind of move on, all right? Mac Rumors. Apple modifies in-store MagSafe stands to prevent iPhone 17 marks. Well, if you haven't been, I've had a couple articles where when they had the phones up on the stands in the stores, the iPhones were getting scratched and people were getting concerned that the iPhones didn't have a lot of, they were just kind of delicate. So as Apple's quietly added a protective silicone ring to its in-store MagSafe charging stands following reports that marks appearing on the iPhone 17 basically, were there, according to this company here. So if you kind of scroll down, first of all, it's interesting. That's the number one thing they did. They did that. They kind of covered it up. But just make sure if you have like a MagSafe charger that it's going to have some good padding on it. Maybe it's not just direct metal, so it doesn't scratch the iPhone. I guess that's number one. And then there was information about the camera plateau getting scratched as well. So what's Apple's response? It says, separately, Apple's addressed concerns about scratching the camera plateau area of the iPhone 17 Pro models, saying the edges have similar characteristics to aluminum cases on the Apple devices like MacBooks, and may show normal wear and tear over time. Thank you. So that's it. So that's their response to it. So it's basically saying, just deal with it and move on, right? Which I guess that's the best way to do it. People kind of dwell on stuff, and we'll kind of leave it at that unless we see more kind of major issues coming up. We'll leave that one alone. Okay, we're going to finally wrap this up with a really kind of weird sale here. And again, I had a great trip. Incredible time out in Germany. I love it out there, and Austria. We had a great time. I went with my wife out there. Long story short, last sale here, not the best. You guys tell me in the comments, would you ever buy this? Let me just explain what it is right here. Micro Center again. Now this is refurbished as well, but they do good refurbished like I said. But if you want to get the M1 MacBook Air just to fool around with, only 8 gigs of memory, that's the problem. M1 chip though, still fast. And then this has only got 128 gig SSD, but still, Now it's down to $429. Now you could buy this new with, I think, a bigger SSD for $599, which I would probably recommend doing. But $429, you get a refurbished one, but still, they're always basically brand new. From Micro Center does a really good job. So $429, this is down to. The question is the OS. Would you buy this right now with the OS? Would you not? Maybe you put Linux on it. I don't know. Maybe you do something different with it. I have no idea. But you post in the comments, do you think it's worth it or not at $429, maybe for a travel computer? At $799 for the M4, I say go for the M4. This is kind of about, it's reached its age, right? Anyways, let's wrap this up. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to everybody in the future here. I'm going to try to get back on a schedule so I can sleep right. I've been so far behind on my sleep because of the time change and stuff, but we'll talk to you next time. Peace.